Hi everybody. So today I'm going to go over how to do your Photoshop Mad Lib. So we're learning how to use the selection tools in Photoshop and copy and paste as well as resize. So first you're going to go to Photoshop. You're going to open up the images that you've downloaded for your celebrity, your location, and your noun. So go File, Open. I chose Kristen Wiig in a rainforest with a sloth. So I'm going to open up those three images, File Open, then choose from my Downloads folder. The first photo that I want to copy and paste onto my background is my photo of my celebrity. So I have a couple options here. I'm first going to show you the easiest one, which is the Object Selection tool. So if I go to the fourth tool down in my toolbar, or if I use W on my keyboard, it will bring up the selection tools. And object selection has a little square with a dotted line around it and a triangle mouse selection in the corner. I'm going to click and drag my cursor over the area that I want to select. And you'll see that the quick select or the object selection tool does a pretty good job of detecting the edges of contrast. So it's selected Kristen Wiig's body. You can see that by the dotted lines or the marching ants, as I like to call them, around her. If there's parts that are missing or too much selected, I can toggle between the add to selection, the remove from selection up top, or I can also try these with another type of selection tool. So the second selection tool that I use most often is the quick selection tool. And in the quick selection tool, I'm going to remove this little piece that is underneath Kristen's arm or her armpit. So I'm going to switch it from the plus, which means add to selection, to the minus. And then I'm just going to click there and it's going to remove that from the selection. If I wanted to get very picky, I could go in with select and mask to pick the areas of her hair. But for today, I'm just going to focus on how to use these tools. I'm going to go Control C on my keyboard or Edit Copy to copy what's in that dotted line. And then I'm going to go to my background and Control V to paste. So if you're getting your images from online, especially from Google, some of the images will be much too small for others, or some of them will be much too big for others. So to resize your image so that it fits within the background, you're going to go to Edit, Free Transform, or Control T on your keyboard. If you hold the Shift key as you drag out from the corners, it's going to maintain the proportions of your image. When you're happy with the size and placement, you can hit Enter to accept, or there's a little check mark up here that you can use. So I'm going to repeat that step with my noun, which is my sloth. So I can again use the quick selection tool, object selection tool, or I can even try using the magic wand tool. Now, magic wand tool works by similarity. And so if it's a similar color like this sloth is to the tree, it's not going to work as well for me. So I'm going to Control D to deselect. So anytime you get too much in your selection or it just becomes overwhelming, use Select, Deselect, or Control D as your keyboard shortcut. I'm now going to show you a second selection tool option you can use, which is the lasso or the magnetic lasso. So the lasso, you're physically drawing around your object, and the lasso works great if you don't have a need to be as close in or cropped and you just want to take one piece of the image really quickly. You have to close the shape with where you started your drawing, and then those dotted lines will appear. If I want to get really close, I can zoom in and use the magnetic lasso tool, which is going to use edge detection software to find the areas of strongest contrast. So as I'm clicking, I'm dropping what are known as anchor points. Anchor points are defining the shape of my selection. And the magnetic lasso tool is kind of going to help to speed this process up by looking for the strongest area of contrast in the pixel's color and shade. So once I get to the front of my image, or the first selection point that I made, I'm going to hit enter on my keyboard to close that shape and bring up those dotted lines. If I'm happy with the selection, I can go ahead and hit copy. If there's things that are missing, I can use the add to selection. Like I took a little bit out of his stomach here, so I can add that in. If there's things that are too much, I could go to remove from selection, could remove the little areas between his toes. Once you're happy, you're going to go Control C on your keyboard or edit copy. And then you're going to bring it over to your background and Control V to paste. Once again, the image might be placed in a funny area, or it might be sized incorrectly. So you're going to go Control T or edit free transform to resize and replace. So if I want to make my sloth smaller, I can drag from the corner of that box. If I want to rotate it, I can hover around the outside of the white toggle boxes and I'll get this curved double-sided arrow to adjust the angle of that object. Okay, so I'm going to just adjust this to size. I'm going to place this sloth along the tree. And when I'm happy with my placement and size, I can hit enter on my keyboard or click this little check mark up top to accept the change. Okay, so those are the basics of the selection tool, copy, paste, and resize. When you're done with your Photoshop Mad Lib, you want to save it as a JPEG. So when you go File, Save As, you'll get a file type or format underneath your file name, and it will automatically save it as a PSD. We are able to upload PSDs to the D2L Brightspace learning platform, so you need to choose JPEG to flatten the image. Whenever you think you're going to come back to an image and continue editing and you want to keep your layers, that's when you're going to save it as a PSD. So I'm going to call this Photoshop Mad Lib Miss M, and I have JPEG selected as my file type. I'm going to hit save. It's going to ask me what quality I want to save the file. I always choose the largest and OK. Okay, and that is how you're going to use the selection tools, copy, paste, and resize to make your Photoshop Mad Lib. Please share them with me in your D2L, and I look forward to seeing what you guys create.